Am I pronouncing that right? Jaeger?
This is turning into a language course. Yearborn.
Yearbo. That's totally different to the way you told me to say it. What a lovely language. Yeah, so we...
book you called the Hunter's book, maybe?
That great book that sold 30,000 copies in this country, despite the fact that we released it for nothing. Yes, that's how that document came to us, was electronically through this interface. Now, when running a project like this, to take everything in the world that is constricted from the public, constricted from the democratic process, of course, you would need an enormous budget to take everything. So we have some limitations, but the limitations are as narrow and as clear as possible. So that is, we will take and we will put our reputations and our lawyers and our lives behind information that is classified, censored, or otherwise restricted material of political, diplomatic, or ethical significance. Actually, it should say historical there as well, because we do some of that. And it can't be published before, and it can't be self-authored. Within those constraints, everything that we receive, we publish eventually. From our perspective, we are international public service. We represent sources and journalists in the same way that lawyers represent people who are going before court. So we do not make any other judgment on the material that we receive except for that minimal aspect. And that's been very important in preserving our integrity. It's also a terrible problem in trying to get money from people, because they always think that tomorrow you're going to release a leak about their organization. People have suggested we should set up front companies, one that leaks stuff about the United States and another that leaks stuff about China, and then they can cross-subsidize. Okay. And there is so much, the enormous amount of technical work goes into this securely allowing people to submit us material. So we take advantage of jurisdictional laws to house servers and our organizational infrastructure, our legal infrastructure in jurisdictions that are beneficial to journalists and to sources. So that includes Sweden and Belgium, which of the countries that follow the rule of law have the strongest protections. And it also includes first-rate encryption systems that we use and have deployed. But not just, we don't just take submissions on the internet. Actually, the strongest and safest way for someone to submit us a lot of material is in the post, this old-fashioned mechanism. And I just came, in fact, from Cambodia before I was here, although my luggage until this afternoon was in Finland. So here's something from our mail drop in Cambodia. Someone has sent in. Where did they send it in from? This is from Sweden to Cambodia. And here's another example from Kenya, sent to our mail drop in Melbourne University from Kenya. This document is a secret internal report on corruption in Barclays Bank in Kenya. It's a very strange document, actually. We'll scan this in and release it soon, but it's very funny. But not everything is funny, actually. So because we take everything that fits this criteria, we have a mix of information. And some of it is material like Scientology's secret Bibles, and Scientology did try and sue us over this and have sued many other people. Time magazine spent $3.6 million defending a lawsuit against a Scientology attack and took it all the way to the Supreme Court and won. But it does show that in order to succeed in publishing material that people don't want published, you either have to have very interesting organizational structure or an extremely large budget, because access to the courts, even if the laws might be good, is expensive. So if you want to look through WikiLeaks for some keyword and look at the material that we have released, remember everything we release is original or it is derived from our material. It's an article based upon our material. There's nothing in there that's cut and pasted from somewhere else. So here's a search for assassination, and you can see the material that we have released about assassinations. And if we have a look at one of these an extraordinary range of documents about the assassination attempt of Ramos Horta, the Nobel Prize-winning president of East Timor. In fact, that country, East Timor, has been a real showcase for us. The formation of a new country, less than 10 years old, our most, I believe it's our most recent democracy. And that government is struggling to form itself. I guess you wouldn't call Afghanistan our most recent democracy yet. And we have received over 3,600 documents about what's happening in East Timor, including many things related to this assassination, but structural things related to the UN, corruption, the competition between the police and the military. And here's another assassination-related document. This is from Nairobi. I actually live most of the time in Kenya. And we were involved in releasing information about between 500 and 6,000 extrajudicial assassinations that happened in Kenya in the past 2 years. It's very interesting. How many of you have heard about these assassinations that are happening in Kenya? Yeah, so 1 or 2. And I told you before, so that doesn't count. And
heard your speech before.
but this has gone. This actually was. The United Nations became involved, and a special rapporteur was appointed, and it's become a very serious issue, and it is a very serious issue. But compared to the assassinations that happened under the just after the Allende regime under Pinochet, probably many of you have heard about that. But this is almost the same number of assassinations, but you haven't heard about it, even though we've released original material and it's actually been on all the news wires. It's not a left-right issue, so you didn't hear about it. But nonetheless, important material. And 2 colleagues who were human rights lawyers in Nairobi in March were gunned down in the street by the police in plain clothes, and on their way to a meeting at the Kenyan Human Rights Commission. And they were investigating these assassinations. So it's a serious business. These guys were public. And it shows a little bit what happens if you try and do something very serious and you are completely public. Very brave and courageous men. Of our anonymous sources, we have lost none. None have been exposed. As far as we're aware, and we try very hard to know. But of some that are public like this, yes, we've lost a couple. And you know, when we first started, we thought the places that would benefit the most from this sort of exposure would be those countries that were the most opaque. So countries like China, and countries which didn't have a strongly developed open society infrastructure, countries in Africa. But what we found out is, in fact, the world is